Hope on the Hard Road podcast, where you and your family can find community, find encouragement, and find hope for the road ahead.
You know, you're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
Your child's not broken. And there is a way to move through this and to stay in that inquiry in the messiness and the heartbreak, finding your own strength, figuring out who you are and how you access that deep peace that is available. And again, it's not about changing who you or your child are. It's, I think, really about figuring out who you are through this.
Before we get started today, we wanted to take a moment to let you know about some amazing events coming up.
If you're in the San Diego area, you won't want to miss Date Night on February 20th. This is an incredible event designed for caregiving couples to reconnect and enjoy a night out filled with great food, fun, and friends.
On Saturday, March 14th from 10 to 2, we have our Spring Fam Fest located at the picturesque Walnut Grove Park. Families, you won't want to miss this sensory-friendly and accessible event filled with lots of fun games and activities like adaptive Easter egg hunts, photo opportunities, yummy foods, and more.
Ladies, join us for Mom's Day Out 2026 in beautiful San Diego, California. This life-giving conference is uniquely designed for moms of children with special needs and the circle of women supporting them. It is your invitation to step away from the demands of caregiving, breathe deeply, and be reminded that you are not alone. This is more than a conference. It's a reset for body, mind, and spirit. You won't want to miss this incredible conference with inspirational keynote speaker Misty Coy Snyder, creator of Happiness is Down Syndrome, and our fabulous breakout speakers, Jen Jones, author of The Significant Life, Angela O'Brien, host of the Especially Organized podcast, and Kara Ryska, host of the Special Needs Mom podcast, as well as our phenomenal MC, Kara Lee, founder of the Well Community for Women. Plus amazing amenities, unhurried time for connection, rest and renewal, and lots of fun activities. And of course, a swag bag you're going to love. So bring your circle of friends, your bestie, a sister, or another mom walking this road with you, and come experience everything that Mom's Day Out 2026 has to offer. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. We're continuing on in our medical family series with guest Kara Ryska, host of the Special Needs Mom podcast. As a devoted mother of 4, ranging from ages 7 to 17, Kara's life has been shaped by her role as a mother of a multiple brain tumor survivor and a child with diverse disabilities, encompassing physical, visual, behavioral, and medical challenges. Driven by her personal experiences, Kara has become an advocate for families facing similar hurdles, offering support through her role as a life coach. Kara's resilience is inspiring, and you're absolutely going to want to listen in or watch today's episode. On a side note, you'll hear me mention that Kara was able to come to our prior Mom's Day Out conference, and I'm excited to announce that Kara will be joining us as a breakout speaker for this year's conference in May. So we hope to see you there. All right, let's listen in. Kara, we are so happy to have you on today. You just came to our Mom's Day Out event, and it was amazing to have you there. So welcome on. We finally did it.
We did it. We have been talking about this for a while. And yeah, I finally made it to the retreat, and it was incredible. I got to say, that was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for all that you put into that.
I'm so happy. Really. That is my heart, and I just love it. And I know you get it.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. And, why don't you tell us a little bit about your family and your story?
All right, let me see if I can paint a picture. So I live in San Diego, North County, San Diego, specifically San Marcos in Southern California. And I have an amazing husband who's an assistant principal, a husband of 21 years. We're actually like 21 years, a little bit over that. And that's crazy and wonderful. And we have 4 children together, and they range in age from 8 to almost 18. I like when it's like the round numbers, so we're going to round up. That's kind of like a quick snapshot of our family dynamic. We have a dog named Sally, who I love so much. Okay. And I joke that she's my favorite kid. My husband's an assistant principal at a local high school. I do a variety of things in terms of what I do with my time during the day. Caregiver, I'm the primary caregiver for all of my children, but specifically my disabled and medically complex child. And I podcast and I host a variety of different support systems and structures for special needs moms. I do other coaching as well. So my training is in ontological leadership and life coaching. So I've really over the years morphed and adapted to apply the work to the special needs mom community. It was an area where, we were grossly underserved. And so I was really with some reluctance, I ended up doing what I never thought I would do and really kind of leaning into working in this space. So a little bit more about the family. It is my second son. So my first three children are all boys, and then my daughter is the last one. And it's my second son. His name is Levi, and he is a multiple brain tumor survivor. So his first diagnosis was way back when he was 2 years old. He's 16 now. So that's, 14 years we've been doing this. And so after his first surgery was the only treatment protocol available to him at that time. I would say in general, surgery was successful, as in there was no evident tumor at that time. And yet it was a pretty impacting surgery. So he came out of surgery and he was no longer able to walk. His whole left side was pretty heavily impacted. And as they anticipated before surgery, just due to the nature of this particular tumor, he no longer had any pituitary function. So he went from essentially what we all mostly are is, we're automatics. Our body knows what to do and when to do it. His doesn't. So we have to supplement all of his hormones, every single one. And so, I'm going to redact that. There's a lot of hormones in our body. A lot of the big ones we're supplementing. And so I always joke that, he went into puberty on this precise day, because most of us don't know that day, right? It's kind of a slow rolling evolution. And I kind of make February 2nd, 2000. I don't know. I find it kind of funny. You have to laugh at these things. He also has visual impairment. So he's completely blind in his right eye. It's his left side of his body that's impacted, in his right eye that is blind. He has some mild cognitive impairment, which impacts us significantly. He has technically an autism diagnosis. I like to describe it as acquired autism, because I don't know that he would fit that profile had he not had the neurological impact that he has had. But his behaviors look pretty big and pretty explosive. And so impulsivity and self-regulation is a big challenge for him. And lastly, due to the impact of the pituitary, he has what's called hypothalamic obesity, which essentially is a pituitary or hormonally based drive for constant hunger. It's a condition called hyperphagia. So he's very hungry all the time. We call him my little baby bear, because we have to keep food secured. And even keeping food secure, all the efforts that we make, it seems like we fail more than him from what would be, pretty gross overconsumption when he does get a hold of things. So that's our picture of a little snapshot for us.
Oh gosh. And Kara, we absolutely identify with the hyperphagia aspect and how that impacts life so much. We have everything around here locked up and regimented for our daughter's safety.
It's so hard for people to understand. They're like, wait, what? People will be like, oh yeah, my kid eats a lot too, or my kid's hungry all the time too. And, I just let those, go in and go out the other ear. Yeah. It's even hard for me to understand, right? These things are a lot of times with this behavior. Another one of his behaviors is stealing. Mm-hmm. And so intellectually, he actually understands that's not okay. Morally, he understands it's not okay. Is he able to not steal when the moment comes that he sees something that he wants? No. And so understanding the difference of kind of where his ability to control his actions starts and ends, I don't know. I don't know that part yet. So he had recurrence. So right after COVID, right, we got through COVID, and right as we were kind of coming out of that, it was that 10-year scan, because we were continuing to scan under the protocol that we were following. And it popped up that he had tumors coming back.
Mm.
And so we went through another surgery and ultimately were not successful with surgery and go through 6 weeks of proton beam,
Mm.
which was awful. It was absolutely awful. I mean, I think these rooms where they do radiation have all sorts of warnings, danger, do not enter.
Totally.
And I'm literally walking my child in and strapping him in and saying, okay, lay still. Like I think in terms of what any mother or human has to go through, it was pretty rough. And even with as much work as I had done to recover from all of the things before, I'm still very much recovering from that season.
Looking back at those early years, there's so much that's going on during that time. What were those early years like for you guys as a family? Speaking to some of our younger families that are listening in today.
Oh, actually, when I think about that, I just got a little bit of a somewhat like chills over my body because it was honestly so hard.
Mm.
His tumor was diagnosed in 2011. And so we're still all recovering from the financial impacts of 2008. So we're not doing great financially already.
Mm.
And I worked part-time at that time and I was pregnant. So I had 10-week baby in my tummy. So when he's diagnosed, I'm thinking in my mind, he was in the hospital for 2 months. We didn't know how long he'd be there, but we were in there for a while and I'm getting more and more pregnant thinking, how is this going to go?
Right.
And remember, he lost his ability to walk and it's all of the things added up. I'll add a couple just to really paint how bad it was. I got laid off. So I was like, okay, I'll go back to work because in my mind, that's all I knew to do. And they're like, well, so sorry about that, Kara, but there's no job for you anymore. My husband had just left or took a break from his teaching career to do a business venture that was, 100% commission, right? He wasn't going to be getting another salary. So he had just launched into that. So what I remember most about that time is going to bed and just feeling so hopeless and trying to write the scenarios in my mind where I could figure out if we were going to be okay or not. I didn't have a lot of hope at that time. It was just like, it felt so dark. And so I think in the early days, what I find is people really rally around cancer. They're like, oh, I know what that is. And I know how to help with that. Or at least I think I do. And so in the early days, like early, people were there to help and support and quite honestly blew my mind with how they supported us. But once we got out of the hospital and we're transitioning to live our new life, the people kind of fell off.
Yeah.
That's when we started to feel alone, financially terrified. And that went on for quite a while in terms of not knowing how we were going to make this work. But piece by piece, things got put back together. And there was a lot of, really sweet things along the way that really helped restore, I think, my hope, my faith, and even just like the stability that was completely lost. It was probably about 5 years in where I felt like, okay, we got this. And that's actually when I made a career transition and said, okay, I want to do something different. I liked my first career, but I'd always known that it was not my best career. And so I'd always wondered what's next. For me, it was coaching. It's like, I want to have this relationship with people. And so that's kind of when I went a totally different direction. So that tells you something, right? If you have the energy to make a career transition and to, basically go back to school, I would not have had the energy in the earlier years. Let's put it that way.
Wow. And you tell the story of so many families like ours, how just difficult, and you feel like you almost hit rock bottom and then find your way back out of there. What things kind of got put in place that helped you to transition, and type of things for your child and their growth, like potentially were put in place that you could move on from that and see a road forward?
It's even actually in the last 2 years that we've gotten a lot of support for my son, like financial support there's a lot of support actually available, with the caveat, if you have specific diagnoses.
Right.
So it's been very strategic that we've pursued more ways to describe the impacts to him.
Yeah.
Because it gives us access to more support. So if I think back to the early days, it was putting one foot after another. It was just continuing to kind of hold on to this rock bottom. Like the curve has to start going up at some point. This cannot last forever. And I think it's partly my disposition that I'm pretty persistent. I don't know if I would say stubborn exactly, but you put a little blockade in front of me, I'm the kind of person that will figure out how to get around it.
Or break it.
Disposition really helped me, because even as hard as it got, how dark it felt, I feel like I just held on to those glimmers. As Levi has gotten older, the gap between his abilities and his peers has, of course, widened. But back in the, first grade, second grade, third grade, the gap wasn't quite as wide. Even physically, actually, he was a lot more able physically than he is now. And so it's like we kind of, for lack of better words, we kind of just hobbled along and kind of tried to assimilate with like all the regular community as we could. And I didn't have any other experience. And so I think it was becoming a coach, the skills of coaching that really helped me recognize that, I haven't emotionally processed any of this.
Oh, yeah.
So that's when I started also doing therapy. And I think it was kind of when I really turned to do a lot of the like personal development type work. I'm laughing because I'm like, I do think that this has been the best personal development program I've ever done.
So true. So good.
It was thorough. It really requires a lot of you, a lot of you. And in terms of your communication, your ability to navigate like what feels like an impossible road. There's so many different things. And so I feel like it was when I started to become a coach and I started to learn those skills that it really started to turn around for me. I also think that, as I mentioned earlier, putting one foot after another, I think that's the same way I would say, like, describe my faith journey. I had years, I think I was really, really mad at God. Like, how could you let this happen? Like, how can you watch this? And it's still not easy, full disclosure. Like, I'm still kind of like, come on, man. But I look back and I think I just kind of allowed myself to be where I was at and had a husband who was supportive at kind of letting me kind of be in those broken spots as long as I needed to be in them to kind of restore like foundation of my faith. Like who I thought God was not who I thought he was. It was like basically Satan's goal is to have you question God's goodness. And I was like, well, bingo, because mission accomplished, because that was, I think, the biggest question I had. And so I think I allowed myself just to struggle with that question and to stay open to like, where are you, God? And how can I actually lean on you for support when I'm not sure if I trust you anymore? So I mean, it's like any relationship. There was, I think, a restoration.
That is so good, Kara. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I mean, that just completely resonates with my story. And I know so many other moms out there are grappling with that. It is just an important thing to bring up, is that go ahead, have that conversation with God, bring it to him. He is big enough and he loves you enough to walk through that journey with you. And then just the beauty of having your husband support you in that. I know Eric did that for me too, just allowing you to walk through that, to process it and to come full circle. There's so many relationships to think about as we're journeying along. Our children, our other children, the siblings, right? When you're raising your children, what do you see? What's some advice you would share about just nurturing the heart of your other children as they're watching their brother, as they're dealing with what they deal with, and as they're growing?
I think the biggest thing is to not just normalize, but really validate the feelings that they're having. A recent message I got on Instagram from a mom who asked me a question. She said, do you ever feel like your child's more of a burden than a blessing? I was so proud of her for asking the question, for putting language to this thing that she's like internally grappling with. And so we talked back and forth for a little bit. And she came back and said, my husband says I'm wrong for having those thoughts. And my heart just sank because I was like, feelings are never wrong. They're just not. Now, actions, there can be consequences for actions, right? So it's like, if you want to steal that thing and you steal that thing, you're probably going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But thinking about stealing a thing is not wrong. It's just a thought. And so learning to hold space for the actual feelings and thoughts your children are having, I think is a skill to be learned. And as a mom, it is really hard.
Yes.
Because when you have these two people who you love, when one person has thoughts about the person that are really hard, it's really hard not to push back. The skill I did not have going into this was the ability to process emotions, to self-regulate, to do all the skills that, we probably are trying to teach our children.
Right.
And so I think really investing in time, energy, money to help myself navigate that skill. It's a skill, something that we actually have to learn so that I can then kind of make way to then teach my children. I can't tell them to go authentically feel their feelings if I'm not willing to do the same thing. And so I think that's the other thing is being an example of somebody who allows hard emotions, but also supports themselves through it. Like I'm very open and vocal with my children about going to therapy. I've offered all my children therapy, and it totally bums me out that none of them have taken me up on it, with the exception of Levi, because I just think that there's so much opportunity for them to have a space where they get to actually just, ask the hard questions. I think back to before I was leaving to one of the surgeries for Levi, I wrote them all little Post-it notes and left them on their bed. And I noticed actually afterwards, I'm like, oh, I kept their little notes, and they're all different, they kept them. Do I think that resolved the impact of their mom leaving for a couple days to deal with their brother? No, I don't think it did. I sure wish it did. But I do think that they know that I'm very committed to supporting them. And I've also just had to surrender. I cannot protect them from having really hard things happen, but I can teach them how to process that. And so I think for me, I've relinquished the responsibility of trying to keep them from the hard things. I can't. And I think that for me has allowed me to just not feel like I have to make it all better for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. Because so often as parents and especially as moms, I think we just want to, we have these little babies and they come out and we're just like, we want to protect them, mama bear. And to be able to allow our children to know you can do hard things.
Mm.
You can do hard things. I'm right here. I'm supporting you. I can't do it for you, but here's a few supports and ways to, and just listening to their heart and processing it with them or sitting by.
Yeah.
You're growing in process and showing that to your kids that that's what's needed to navigate this. Yeah. One of the things I know you've mentioned is therapy. What other types of things do you do for self-care and for, dealing with all the stress of the medical emergencies and things that you see in your life?
When I think about self-care, I almost picture like a wheel of fortune spin that you just spin it and there's so many different options. And so that's really how I approach self-care, that it's not one thing and it's not one thing I do all the time that works. Because guess what? I support myself at a very high level. And guess what? I still have anxiety. So what that means is I need to keep adding things to my wheel. And then also sometimes accepting that is just how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that. I have to admit, I was like, oh, again, remember persistent roadblock. I'm going to go through it. It really is not something I love, that I have not mastered some of these things, but I want to be very transparent that I have not mastered most of these things. So therapy is a huge one. And finding the right therapist for the time. I've had some real bad therapists. You have to try a couple to figure out then actually what's helping you. And then the different seasons, there's been a therapist I'm thinking of that was good for the season, but I don't want to say I outgrew her, but I outgrew her. I was ready for somebody that could support me in a different way. I am big on EFT tapping. So it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique Tapping. And it's kind of a combination of acupressure with with meditation. It's very supportive to your nervous system. And I find that it's really, really helpful for me in like kind of tapping into my nervous system. Walking. I walk regularly. I love my dog, as I mentioned earlier. So she and I spend a lot of time together. And for me, it looks like learning. Like, so for me, self-care is learning and exploring and trying new things and kind of guiding me back into community. It's a lot of little things, pretty irregular. So for me, self-care could be very like massage or like it's the classic, go get a massage. Like that actually really does help me. And I get that like not everybody can go run out and get a massage. So I even hesitate to say that because everyone rolls their eyes when they hear that, which I get. Retreats, doing things like that, like taking intentional breaks, hugely restorative. And that can look like me going upstairs and shutting my door and say, kids, I need 20 minutes. Can you guys watch your brother? Like, I just need, like, I need to like come down here for a second. Like I'm feeling super overstimulated. I'm not afraid to say to my child, like, I don't have that to give you right now. Like, Mom, I want you to tuck me in and do all this and that. I don't have that to give you right now. And so what I need to do is I need to go take care of myself. I think scarcity can get the best of us where we're like, oh, but there's only so many nights we can tuck them in and they're not going to be asking forever. And I generally try not to live from a scarcity mindset. And like for me, sometimes I just have to say no to some things that they're asking. I think also that kind of leads me into thinking I say no to a lot of things. So the time we're recording this, it's like the last week of school for us. And I've said no to signing up for all the potlucks.
Bravo.
I just haven't done it. I haven't done it. I was like, I just don't want to. And you know what? They're going to probably live if they don't get a few more Doritos. And learning the skill of asking and requesting and asking for help. I also really prioritize sleep. For me, I'm a much better human being if I'm well rested. And I also say that knowing that a lot of medical families, like that isn't an option for them. Part of the space that I love to hold for parents, for moms specifically, is recognizing, okay, this is a circumstance I have. Like my child does not sleep at night or they have seizures. And so I have to lay in bed with them. And, but how can I still get rest and just not stop at I can't get rest? Because what's inevitable from there, you won't get rest. And so that's for me, something that really is important for me to be my best human.
I love the pursuit of what is needed to be able to run the marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So find those things that work for you. Self-care, it can be a dirty word. It feels like something you have to do. It's put on you. It's just one more thing you have to do. But the beautiful thing is that what you're saying is it's like, hold it with loose hands, hold it with open hands. Like what works for you, it might be infrequent, but keep pursuing the things that are going to keep you healthy so you can go the distance and thrive in the midst of it, not just survive it.
People relate to it as one more thing on your list. That's why we get the eye rolling of like, why would I want to do that to myself? And that's when I think what we can consider is that self-care is not necessarily doing something, it's being something. And I think being for yourself, somebody who cares for yourself, as in approaches yourself with loving kindness. And so we don't have to do anything. We can go about our daily routine and not change what we're doing, but how we show up for ourselves, the things that we're whispering to ourselves or we're saying in our head, the way we have our own back, the difference between judgment and compassion. It is so critical. So that to me is like fundamental self-care is how we're showing up for ourselves in that like energetic, loving, tender kindness space. That's how I look at self-care, even though, yes, I do a lot of things that are actually doing out of caring for myself, tending to my own needs versus putting them on a list and checking them off.
On the topic of balance, like how do you balance your work, your family, all the things that are needed, plus caregiving on such a constant basis?
Well, that's a great question. And I don't know. I don't know how we balance all this. But I will say that over the years, my professional life has morphed. There's been many times where I had to do what I had to do and I had to go work full time and figure out how to care for my children in the meantime. Also, I knew that that was not the best system for my family.
Yeah.
And so one small step after another, I essentially built this routine, this dynamic that I have where I work from home, work for myself. If we actually look at the hours breakdown of how much I work, it's definitely not full time. It's funny though, because I definitely identify as somebody who is like a full time, like I don't consider myself having a little job on the side. Like it's part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's part of what lights me up. But the bulk, I'm sure you guys understand, is like the bulk of my time, efforts, energy, and money go to caregiving. And all of it takes to manage all the different components of, the medical, the behavioral, the educational, all the different aspects. I am very intentional about sharing the load with my husband. And it's hard even to say this because I know some people truly don't have one, they're non-partnered, like they are single parenting. So I don't want to rub it in that I do have support, but I do want to talk about it because I think a lot of us do have a willing and caring partner. And yet we haven't learned how to align with them, how to work with them. And this is something I'm going to call the ladies out on, and to let go and to surrender control so that you can receive help from them. It takes, and it's because I experienced this too, right? Where my husband has been vocal about saying, hey, like, let me take some of the appointments off your calendar. I can do some of them. And so like conceptually that sounds great. But then when it takes me taking the next steps of like actually not going to the appointment and letting my husband do it, then we hear, or I experience the resistance of, oh, I'm not going to be like, I'm going to lose touch with what's going on with that doctor. I don't get to do whatever. And it's like, I think I'm just used to having that level of touch with it. Mm-hmm. So I have to let go of that and be willing to figure out, okay, how do I make sure I get the information from my husband? How do I make sure that this all works, but also receive the support that is available to me? So I think that's a big one, is being willing to receive the support that's available to you. This is something that we focus on heavily inside the special needs moms communities that I lead, is asking for and receiving, because there's so many blocks that we have internally or like kind of mindset wise that really limit what we're willing or able to receive.
We're big advocates of partnering in marriage, seeing the teamwork aspect. I mean, yes, definitely. We know there's parents that are single parents doing this, and praise them for that. That's absolutely amazing. I can't even imagine. But in marriage, it's a constant working and refining the teamwork aspect and using each other's strengths to get the best out of it and really provide the most potential for, care and self-care and things like that. Sometimes splitting and not doing it together allows a little margin to be added in our lives, which, I know that we constantly are working towards. And we advocate for other parents to do this and make that a part of it. When I talk to dads, same kind of idea that how do you partner in marriage?
Using each other's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think that's where us mothers recognizing that controlling and managing everything isn't the best thing for our child. It's not the best thing for us. It's not the best thing for our husbands. And that actually recognizing the way your husband does it is equally valuable to how you do it. Because I think there's a lot of like, well, he doesn't do it my way. You're right. And consider that your way is not the only way, that he's actually like a functioning human being and he, eats all three meals.
One foot in front of the other.
With or without. Yeah. With or without you. Okay.
And for those single parents, again, just reaching out for community, reaching out for the help, taking advantage of those respite care hours that you have been allotted.
We know that raising a special needs child creates chaos in routines. Maybe you can describe how that's impacted your family routines, vacations, if those things are possible, holidays, time off.
Well, one routine that is a super supportive routine for us is the routine of school. And so actually, as I mentioned earlier, that routine's ending in 1.5 short days. And I was very intentional this year about creating other support for myself and for Levi, because having him home full time is not a scenario that's good for any of us. And vacation wise, I feel like I don't know, I guess have accepted what we can and cannot do. We'll be like, well, what about if we go, like we were thinking, well, what about if we go to the Pacific Northwest? We're kind of thinking about a vacation. There's many of us in the family that like to hike, but we are not a hiking family for the reason that one of us cannot hike. And so that's a no for us in terms of a family vacation that really works for our family. So I think it's choosing locations that work for us. And that's for us, like very pool centric because the pool works for our family and not a lot else, actually. No. We've also done things like renting a motorhome versus doing a different kind of vacation because that gives us the home base to have all of our things that we need to support him and the family. And I think also kind of having a balance of the things that we know that we'll do together and choosing and investing in activities that we can do together. So for us recently, like for spring break, we did the Grand Canyon in Sedona. And what we knew we could do together would be like an off-roading trip. It was so much fun. We knew that we could do that together. That is something that Levi could do. And yet he, for other parts of that vacation, was not interested or able to do something. So that's when we divide and conquer. That's when we, parents switch off. You do this, I'll do that, and try to make it work for everybody. And it doesn't always, right? Like not everybody's always happy about the way that we have to divide and conquer. But it's just something that we've just tried to accept and then figure out what other options we have. I think a lot of it is in deciding what we will and won't do and what works and what doesn't work. Even like a restaurant, right? Like we go, out to eat as one does and thinking about, okay, that restaurant's like really small and really quiet. And not just because, so Levi's he's got a large stature. It's like 6'1" and he's like over 300 pounds. So he's just not a small human being. And neither are any of us. Like we're big human beings over here. Like we're on the large side of the spectrum of humans. And so we don't and there's 6 of us. So like already it's like, this is like, people are going to notice us coming in a restaurant. Then we have the potential behavioral things that happen. And so I'm like, okay, like a small, intimate, quiet restaurant, that's not going to be something that's good for us. So where can we maybe eat outside or where can we maybe find something that's a little more friendly for large things?
Yes, we completely get it. I mean, we have vacationed in a trailer for years because it brought home wherever we were and consistency and, familiarity and brought the anxieties down. But we have also stumbled and fumbled and had blow up vacations as well, where it just did not work at all. The setup did not work. So, just being creative is oh gosh, we have to do it all the time, right?
Well, and not setting the bar so high that you can't meet it. The fact that just kind of being able to go and get out, that in itself is it. Even though there's a lot of stuff that's can go crazy and crazy wrong sometimes, it's still, you guys are together and those are the adventures and those are the things legends are made of, right?
So what have you learned from this in this journey, as a family, just personally? What are the things that you've learned from all that you guys have been through?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think I learned a lot about grappling with the hard parts of faith, learn more about who God is. And I think maybe even more of the bigness of the spiritual realm. I think, when you have a child who, faces life and death situations over and over again, I think you really have to, it really helps you refine like what you really believe. Because if I'm really going to get peace from knowing that my child will go to heaven, you want to know that heaven's real, right? Like, it's like, it goes from this sweet idea to like, wow, do I really believe that? And so I feel like I've learned to kind of just allow those, again, questions and answers and to grapple with that. But I think, it boils down to, I think I've learned who I am.
Yeah. So good, Kara. So good.
One of the things we do when we do these podcasts, we really enjoy is asking our guests, what is one thing you'd like to leave with our listeners that would bring hope for the road ahead?
What comes to my mind is, you're not broken. Your child's not broken. And there is a way to move through this and to stay in that inquiry in the messiness and the heartbreak, finding your own strength, figuring out who you are and how you access that deep peace that is available. And again, it's not about changing who you or your child are. It's, I think, really about figuring out who you are through this.
So good, Kara. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Every year we try to do a series specifically for families that are dealing with medical diagnoses and all the things that you are dealing with. And so we cannot thank you enough for coming on. It was really great to have you. Check out the show notes to find resources and contact information for today's episode.
Yeah, and if you like the podcast, please share it with others and be sure to follow us so you won't miss an episode.
We love to hear from our listeners, so leave us a comment or rating and connect with us on social media or on our website at hopeonthehardroad.org.